My guest today has traveled down a road that many of you watching have gone down. She started YouTube 10 years ago and she created content around several different topics. And along the way, her lifestyle changed significantly as well. I'm talking to inspirational lifestyle content creator Montelle Bee about how she's been creating content through her life's many different transitions, from single girl to married woman and soon to be first time mom, and how content creation eventually became a successful full time business for her. Hello, Montelle. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today. And I have known you for a couple of years, but things have been changing rapidly for
Yeah.
you. So I'm really excited to get into this and talk about all the changes, all your new plans, your content, your life, everything. So if you don't mind, for my audience, would you introduce yourself and kind of tell them how you got into content and how you kind of play in this content creation game?
Yep, for sure. Firstly, thank you so much for having me on, Miss Tony. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, collaborate with you, and also just to share knowledge and gems with both of our audiences. So, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here today. And for anyone who doesn't know who I am, my name is Montelle. I go by Montelle Bee, and I am a transformational lifestyle coach, content creator, and speaker. And I guess what I do more so now is I share educational and inspirational content, which is helping women to just take ownership of their lives, their identity, vision, goals. And yeah, I've been on YouTube for the past 10 years now. I haven't always been producing the same type of content. I've been through many shifts and pivots throughout my journey, but I'm now at a stage where YouTube is my full time income, and I've been able to create a really successful platform, as you may know, through the help of yourself, Miss Tony, and all of your resources. So, yeah, I'm in a really exciting, happy space right now. There's a lot going on in my personal life, which I'm sure we'll get into. But as far as YouTube goes, yeah, 10 years in the game.
10 years. I don't think I knew that. I don't think I knew that because when I met you, it seemed like, you had it together and you were doing things. Just to show you that sometimes it takes a while to hit your stride. So, what changes, speaking of hitting that stride and getting to where you're now a full-time YouTube content creator, what changes did you have to make or what tweaks did you have to make to start seeing that, like, okay, I think I can do this. I know I'm heading towards actually making this a career.
Yeah. So I guess the first shift that I had to go through, which was more so a mindset shift, was just seeing that it could be a career and I could make an income from doing this. And I'm sure many YouTubers have this similar story of, it started as a hobby and it was just something that we were passionate about. So when I first started almost 10 years ago, I was just passionate about makeup, hair, beauty. It was what I saw all the creators doing. Funnily enough, Raven was one of the OGs that I've been watching for years who really inspired my journey. So I just started as a hobby. It was just like a passion project. And it was something to just get me outside of my comfort zone a bit as well. But I was never seeing it at that point as a career or something that I could even make money from. So I was on the platform for a good 3, probably 4 years before I realized, oh, wait, you can actually monetize this. And that just opened up a whole new world to me of monetization and what that could look like and how I could potentially monetize my channel. But even back then, although I was monetizing, I still was playing quite small and I still didn't see it as something that could ever be full time. I mean, even to this day, sometimes it blows my mind to think, wow, I'm creating a full time income off of doing something I love. It's still hard for me to wrap my head around. But I remember when I first got started, I still saw it as something that, oh, it's just something on the side. It's a little pocket money here and there. So when I first got monetized, it was great, but I still didn't have a business mindset around it. I was just posting my content as and when. So it wasn't until a few years ago when I decided, actually, I've seen the potential of YouTube. I've seen creators make a great living off of the platform, and it's now time to transition from just being something that's a hobby or something that I'm doing on the side to now full time. So, yeah, the first kind of shift that I had was more the mindset of, okay, this is now a business. What can I do to really shift it into a business? And that's where I guess you come in and your course comes in, because I really had to strip back and think, okay, I need to rebuild this platform and I need to be intentional about it this time round.
I love that you said your biggest shift was around mindset, because I know that you have shared a lot of content on your channel about mindset. So that tells me what comes to mind when I hear that is that we all have certain things that we've excelled in, or we've learned, or we're good at, or we figure out that we're good at. And then we can turn around and share that knowledge with other people and continue, to grow our platforms and to reach others and to help others, no matter what it is. You may have been on YouTube and learned how to, do great camera work, and therefore you could teach others how to do that. But the fact that you talked about mindset, and that I know that you were creating content around mindset, and I didn't know that you'd started off with makeup. So tell us how, all the different types of content, types of niches that you tried out, and then how it's got you to where you are and where you are today as far as content creation.
Yeah. So I guess my YouTube platform, similar to many creators, it's been a journey of my life. So if you kind of want to see my life from the past 10 years, YouTube has it all. Aside from the videos that I've hidden now, the majority of my journey is still there and evolving on my platform. So my first interest was beauty, makeup, fashion. I was a makeup artist for a few years as well. So I was just showcasing my passion for that through makeup tutorials, hair tutorials. I was kind of taking the things that I learned from other beauty bloggers, and then I was just adding my own spin onto it.
Mhm.
So that was that. And then from there, I shifted my content, and it was more around traveling, specifically solo traveling. So that's when the world of solo traveling opened up to me. And prior to me coming across solo traveling on YouTube, I didn't think it was a thing. And I'm someone who I love to travel, but I'd always run into excuses from friends saying, "Oh, I can't make it. We can't do this X, Y, and Z. Don't have the finances." So when I came across solo traveling, I was like, "Wow." I was completely obsessed by it. I went on trips myself, and I wanted to share that with others. So then I transitioned into more solo traveling, and I really built my community there. Then I started to get into the personal development. So I was just sharing what I was learning about personal development, mindset, coaching. And yeah, it was just all about sharing my journey through that. And then I made the big leap into coaching. So I set up my coaching business, and I was just really inspired by what I was learning about personal development. And I knew that I had a gift of also encouraging others to change their lives as well. So that's when YouTube really became more of a business for me, and I started generating clients and leads through my videos and through the content that I was putting out there. And yeah, now that leads me to where I am now. So more so the business, the coaching, lifestyle, everything wrapped into yeah, the platform now. But that's kind of the pivots that I've been through throughout my journey. It hasn't always been easy or straightforward. I mean, pivoting is probably one of the scariest things for me to do on YouTube, but ultimately we're always going to be changing and evolving, and our content is likely to do the same as well.
Yes, pivoting is so scary. Lots of creators, I think, start off doing one thing, think YouTube is going to be a fun hobby, see that it can be a business, but realize in order to make it a business, they're going to have to make that pivot. Um, and I don't think there's anything wrong with trying different types of content, trying different niches. But when You talked about when you really saw that YouTube could be a business. And I love that you've gotten into coaching, and coaching is your business, and YouTube is a part of that. I don't know any um, polite way to say this, but a lot of creators, especially young women, get on YouTube and think that the YouTube itself, meaning sharing your life on YouTube, sharing daily vlogging, weekly vlogging, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Um, or even just doing makeup and hair tutorials, that's going to be the key to their financial success. Just creating the content on the platform alone and not putting anything else behind it. When did that realization come to you that yes, I could make a little bit of money through the AdSense program or maybe through affiliate links, but the real um, income is going to come from something that I produce myself?
So I actually had that realization pretty early on when I figured, okay, YouTube is a really great platform to grow your personal brand and to earn a full-time income. I wasn't seeing it as, but then AdSense is going to be the full-time income. I was always thinking YouTube is the platform to grow the community, and then I always look to have digital products or services on top of that. So I guess when it finally clicked for me that I need to treat YouTube as a business, I my mindset was still quite different to I wasn't and I still kind of don't see myself as an influencer. I know to some extent I am an influencer, but I always went into it thinking, okay, I know that YouTube is a great stepping stone. It's a huge platform, but I always want to make sure that I am leveraging the platform and using it to sell or promote my own digital products, courses, and services. So even before I took your course and I took growing my community seriously on YouTube, when I had 25,000 subscribers, I was still earning a full time income based on the services that I was offering and the products that I was offering. It was only then when I decided, actually, I would like to see more growth with my platform and my community. I would like to work with more brands and have more money coming through AdSense. That's when I was then intentional about growing the YouTube side as well. But you can have a very successful, profitable platform on YouTube with less subscribers if you have other things going on for you as well. So yeah, it's not just about the AdSense, it's about how can you further monetize your community and add value to them.
I know that you are someone who's constantly seeking out information.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm taking this course. You told me about Myron Golden. I took some of his courses. So, how do you feel? How much do you think that your desire to just gain more information and learn more plays into the success that you have right now?
Yeah, I think that when you just with anything, with any career that you want to get into, the more you invest in learning, in upskilling, in your education, the more success you're going to see. And that was the case for me as well. I spent years on YouTube on the platform, just kind of doing my own thing, almost winging it, and you know, just repeating the same cycles that I've been through for years. And it wasn't until I then was intentional about my education and almost just stripping back what I previously learned about the platform, how to grow, and now taking on this new knowledge, that's when I really started to see the success. So I feel like if you're not up leveling, if you're not learning, then you are going to stay stagnant, and you're not going to see the growth that you want because things are always evolving and changing. So you have to be at the top of your game if you want to see the success.
I agree. I totally agree. So, since you started this journey, there have been some really big changes in your personal life. And I'm wondering, how do you balance your personal life with the demands of being a content creator and a business owner? And how has that changed since you've had these big changes in your life? And I'll let you tell what those changes are.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, in the past year, I got married. I'm now expecting. We are expecting our first baby, and yeah, all of this happened within a space of a year. So crazy life changes, and just so much to process, both personally, but then also professionally in career as well. And it's interesting for me, I guess, because although I'm very much on a public platform and, I've grown an audience and a community, I am still a very private person. And I always like to kind of process and go through my experiences before I come and share. And I guess it's just the type of content that I create as well. It's more educational and it's more taking people through a journey. So for me, this year has probably been one of my most challenging years because I'm seeing so much success and joy and happiness in my personal life, but then it can sometimes feel overwhelming to show up online and and to create content when you're going through it. So it has been a challenge for me, a challenge that I'm still navigating right now, but I just always remind myself, show people the journey. Don't show up as this polished perfect version.
Yeah.
Just allow yourself, to go through it and to evolve. And I guess the beauty of YouTube is people are always seeking that realness anyway. So you don't always have to come on and perform or act like everything is all going well. Just come up as you are and people will resonate and relate to that. And that is just a great opportunity that we have on this platform. We can literally monetize by being relatable to people. So yeah, I'm still, to answer the question, I'm still figuring out how to navigate the balance of the two. But I guess it's never really a balance. I heard a quote one time, which was, you don't really have a work-life balance, you have a work-life blend. So it's all
Mm.
about recognizing that different seasons will require different versions of you. And for me right now, my personal life has required a very intense and, my priority. And now I'm at a space where I'm ready to pull back into my content. So it's now re-strategizing how that's going to look with all of these changes.
Well, I have so many questions around that. Oh, work life content
Blend.
creation, that
Yeah.
blend, because I'm thinking, I'm just imagining, of course I wasn't there, you're way across the ocean, but I'm thinking that, when I first met you, it was you, you had your time to yourself, your day to yourself, you were working at some point. I think you
Yeah.
had a job at the time, but
Yeah.
that's just the blend and the balance that you had. Now you've got a whole husband. Now you guys are planning your life together. Pretty soon you're going to have a baby. Have you thought about how that's going to work out once the baby comes, and how that's going to affect your business and your content?
Yeah, I think about it almost every minute of every day because yeah, it is my life. So it's like I'm going to have to, figure out how to incorporate my life. And it's big decisions have to be made as well. When you are a content creator, you have to make big decisions about what your content is going to look like moving forward, how much you do want to share, whether you're going to completely transition. I might have this baby and decide, I want to get into motherhood content. I mean, it's not something that I desire to do right now, but things could change in a few months' time. So, yeah, things are always evolving in this industry, always changing. And yeah, I think that's my
Yeah,
answer. Still
yeah.
to be, yeah, determined.
It's just, you're going to have to just figure it out as you go along. It will
Yeah.
all work out, and there are dozens of ways that you can do it. Me being someone who has, for years before it became a thing, who worked or had a business at home and was also raising, uh, having babies and had toddlers in the house and had school age children. Let me tell you, I tried everything. I had people come in to help. I worked when they were napping. There's dozens of ways to do it. So I'm sure you're going to figure it out.
Yeah,
But
sure.
do you, because I know that although you're providing educational content, you do share certain parts of your personal life. Do you find that your audience is asking for more of your personal life? Or are they just satisfied with what you're giving them?
Yeah, I definitely get that. People asking me, I want to see more vlogs. I'd love to know more about this. So for me, it's just really finding where my boundaries are as well, because every content creator is different. Some creators love vlogs and love showing, behind the scenes of their life. Me, not so much. I'm not really the vlog type. I prefer, I will do an occasional vlog, but for me, I prefer the sit downs. I prefer, just talking, and those type of videos. So it's just finding the boundaries between, okay, I would love to share more of my life and behind the scenes, but then I know that I am more of a private person and daily vlogging wouldn't really suit my style of content. So yeah, there's always that push and pull with how much am I going to share, how much shall I pull back. It's constantly evolving, but for me, one thing that I love to do is just ask for feedback from my audience, and because what I think they may want to see, it always changes, and it's
Mhm.
interesting to see where people are at in their life right now as well, and that informs the type of content that I create.
Right. And I think that um, sometimes our more engaged followers are the loudest as far as saying what they want to see and asking for certain types of content. But honestly, the analytics are what's going to tell you
Yeah.
what people are really watching. So you may have someone say, hey, I want to see more of this type of content, or I want to see longer videos or shorter videos or whatever. And you go and look at your analytics and it's like, that's not the majority. I hear what you're saying, but that's not the majority. So it's important to keep that in mind too. And so when you're talking about creating the content that you want to create and creating the content that the viewers want to see, I guess again, that's a blend and a balance. And I love that you said that it was about setting boundaries. And it's okay for creators to do that, to set those boundaries about what they want to share, what they don't want to share. I think that's perfectly okay. Has that been a challenge for you? And if not, what other challenges have you faced in this whole content creation journey? Period.
Ooh, challenges that I've faced. There's been many challenges,
Yeah.
many, many challenges. But I guess the main challenges that I've faced is probably maintaining the consistency when I am going through seasons of change. And for me, life is always changing. So it's kind of, as I mentioned earlier, the push and pull between, okay, I want to process this, but I also want to share and educate. But I want to come from a place that's authentic, sharing my experience, sharing my actual lessons through this, rather than a place of me just, giving some tips or just looking at what everyone else is doing. Um, and then something that we also discussed off of the podcast was about faith as well. So that is now a really huge factor of my life and something that I want to openly share. And I guess that has now become a challenge of navigating that as I'm going through the season. How am I going to share? How's that going to transition my content? And and yeah, those have been the main challenges, just staying consistent, staying inspired through seasons that could be more difficult, through seasons that are always changing. um yeah, that's been my main
So
challenges.
it's that is so common. Consistency, inspiration, setting boundaries. I love doing these interviews because it shows the other creators out there that no matter how successful you become, you still have those same challenges. We're all dealing with those same challenges. Creators with millions of followers are having challenges of staying consistent, of setting boundaries, of staying inspired. But speaking of consistency, I'm going to dig into that a little bit more because that is one
Yeah.
of the most asked questions or the biggest challenges I think that content creators face. Do you have any specific tips on what has worked for you as far as consistently showing up for your audience on the platform?
I would say that the main thing that works for me is staying inspired. The two go hand in hand, inspiration
Mm.
and consistency. And the more you are intentional about staying inspired, the easier it becomes to take action, to create content, to be consistent. But as soon as you lose that inspiration, you then start to let the doubt creep in, the questions of, is it worth it? Are people resonating with this? Are people listening to this? So I just do what I can to always stay inspired, always stay connected and close to the mission, the vision that I have with my channel. Some of the ways that I do that is just looking back through comments, whether it's new comments, older comments, just reminding myself that there is an audience, they are watching, they are taking gems away from what I am saying. So that's the first way, just really connecting. Something that I mentioned earlier is just asking for that direct feedback as well from my audience. What would you like to see? What are some challenges you're going through? And it's also, I guess, a tip for consistency is just really understanding the way that you like to show up. So something I spoke to you about, Tony, is the fact that I love to show up live. And I feel like I get the most energy and I feel the most inspired when I'm live streaming because it's that direct contact with my audience. And a question you had to me at the time was, well, why are you not live streaming? And that's still something that even now I need to get back into live streaming because I know that that is a style that it really works for me. So it's just finding what works for you. It may not look the same to everybody else in your niche, in your industry. Everybody could be doing vlogs, but you want to do short form videos, you want to do live stream videos. But ultimately, if you are chasing what everybody else is doing, such as the vlogs, then you're not going to feel inspired. And it just becomes that loop again of falling out of consistency. So, yeah, those are, I'd say, are my main tips. Stay inspired, stay connected to your audience, no matter how big your audience is. You could have 30 people, 30 subscribers, but just direct, always asking them for feedback and then just finding the content style that resonates with you and that you're going to actually want to, produce on a consistent basis.
Right. I love that you said if you just have 30 people, if you have 30 people that are interested, there's 300. If you have 300, there's 3,000. If you have 3,000, there's 30,000. You
Yeah.
just have to keep going and not get discouraged that there's only a few people watching. And I love that you said create the kind of content that you feel most comfortable making. And even after all of these years, I haven't spent a lot of time in front of the camera. Mostly I've been behind the camera. But since I am getting out more in front of the camera, I'm just now discovering I love talking to people. I love
Yeah.
live streaming. I love these podcasts. And so, therefore, probably a large portion of my content is going to be just that because that's how I like to show up.
Yeah.
And I can also do those things on the other platforms. And speaking of other platforms, I know that you are on Instagram. What other platforms are you creating on besides YouTube?
So YouTube is definitely my main platform, and I do have somewhat of a presence on Instagram, but I feel like that came as a byproduct of me on YouTube. So a lot of
Mhm.
my followers, subscribers came and followed me on Instagram. And then I also do have TikTok as well. But in terms of the platform that I'm intentional about and consistent, it definitely is YouTube. And I do want to start branching into TikTok as well. Instagram is a platform where my community is there. I have that one on one conversation in the DMs. I'll post a story here and there, but I'm not as intentional. I made it my goal to stick to YouTube for now.
I love that. Do you think that it's necessary to have presence on another platform? As a YouTube creator, do you think it's important to have a presence on another platform?
I do think so, yes. I don't necessarily think it depends what your goals are. It depends, what you want to see from your platforms. But generally speaking, I do think that YouTubers should have a secondary platform. So you've got YouTube, which is the long form, the SEO platform. You could say search engine optimized platforms. That's how you're growing your presence. That's how new people are discovering you. But then to have a community based platform such as Instagram is a great option as well, just so you've got the backup there. And it's often that people who subscribe to you on YouTube, they're going to want to go onto Instagram, even if you're not actively posting on there, even if it is just a few stories like what I do think it's necessary to have that. And I would also recommend an email list as well, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yes, and that is extremely important for anyone on YouTube who has a business, has
Yeah.
something that they are offering outside of their free YouTube content. Instagram is a great platform for showcasing that. And also having that mailing list is so important because, as I say all the time, these people who are following you, I don't care how many you have following you, they don't belong to you. They belong to the platform. They belong to YouTube. They belong to Instagram. They belong to TikTok. So, how do you reach out to them outside of these platforms? You have to have. I know one thing nowadays is very popular, especially with the younger people, is by text. That's fine. Get their phone number, get their email, have a way to contact them when you have something important that you want to talk to them about. But you were saying the inspiration. I'm thinking inspiration is important. Um, Consistency is important. But also, there's like another thing, motivation, being
Mm.
motivated. All these things I feel play into being a successful content creator. And one thing leads to the other, leads to the other. So, can you speak on, do you ever feel unmotivated? And what do you do about that?
Yeah, there's definitely times I feel unmotivated, more often than not, to be honest. Um, just keeping it real. But I guess that motivation is something that we can't always control. We think that in order to be motivated, we can just watch a YouTube video or listen to a podcast, and then immediately we'll find our motivation. And yes, for that hour or so, we may find some motivation, but then what do we do when the next day it's dwindled again and we're back to square one? So I don't always feel like motivation is a reliable source for us to lean on to see
Mhm.
success. It's that we have to align our action to the bigger vision that we have. You have to have a bigger vision. I feel like a lot of content creators get into this thinking, yeah, it seems cool, you get to work with the brands, you just create content, the vlogs, etc. But ultimately, if you don't have a bigger goal in mind, it's easy for you to lose that motivation because you're always going to ask the question of, well, why am I doing this? So I was on YouTube for 7 years before it became full time. Like I said before that, it was just like pocket money that I was earning on the
Mhm.
platform, but I still maintained a level of consistency. And it's not because I was relying on the numbers to motivate me, it was that I had a bigger goal in mind, a bigger vision. And I always saw YouTube as the stepping stone. And even though my subscribers weren't growing, my views weren't really growing, the opportunities were still coming in for what I wanted to do, which was speaking, which was coaching, which was working with clients. So that was always the pillar of my motivation, knowing that there's a bigger picture to this. So anyone that is struggling with feeling motivated on a day-to-day basis, you want to think about the bigger goal that you have set for your platform, because you're not going to see that success overnight. None of us do. It can look like an overnight success. I mean, for me, my channel went from 25,000 to over 100,000 in 6 months. So for many people who discovered me in that period, they may see it as an overnight success. And I was the most motivated I've been at the time. I was pumping out 4 videos a week at the time. So people could look at me thinking, oh, she's so motivated. She's so inspired. She's got everything going on. But they didn't see the 7 years before that where I couldn't rely on this success to motivate me. I had to rely on something else bigger than what my current circumstance was showing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think as creative people, and if anybody's a content creator, even if you're like me and you create education content, we are creatives. We are creative people. And I know, having several creative people, well, working with creatives and having several creative people in my family, namely my children, all four of them are creative. My mom is creative. It is difficult sometimes for us to show up when we don't feel that creativity. It's difficult.
Yeah.
And creativity is what motivates us. And if we don't have any motivation, how do we show up? And the thing that we've realized is we just have to do it anyway. Many times you're not going to feel like doing the thing that you felt excited about last week or yesterday. You don't feel that excitement, but you do it anyway. And that's something of a hurdle. That's part of what I think gets in the way of creatives being consistent, because they're like, well, I'm just not feeling it today. Too
Yeah.
bad. If you want to reach your goals, you have to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And for sometimes for me, if I'm just really having a really, if I'm just really hit a bad slump, I may get up and I say, "Oh, I'm going to film this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that other," and I'm really, really just, I feel like it's going to show in my content. I'll just walk away. I'll say, let me just go shopping for an hour. Let me go on a walk. Let me talk to a friend and laugh for a few minutes. And then I come back to it. So
Mm.
I love that your knowledge about mindset is really helpful,
Yeah.
not only for yourself, but for others who are following you. And I love that.
Yeah, I just want to speak to something that you just said because that was really good. What you mentioned about, we're not always going to feel like doing something, especially as a creative. And you asked me earlier, what are some of my main challenges? And this has probably been one of them as well. And I just love the fact that you said that, we can choose to walk away from it. And that is one of the blessings of having a creative platform is that we have the flexibility. We Yes, we have deadlines if we're working with brands,
Mhm.
etc. But for the most part, we can create our schedule. So it's really good that you mentioned that we can walk away from it, but it's important that we come back.
Mhm.
And it's important that we still get it done at some point. And I think that is a challenge that a lot of creators can have when you're going through this creative block, or if there's something going on in your personal life, is the fact that as a content creator, our lives and our brand is so closely linked to who we are. So how we're feeling in moments, that can affect how we show up. And
Mhm.
and I guess that is a challenge of having a personal brand, but something that we have to really learn to do. It's not easy, but we have to learn to separate ourselves almost from the brand and from showing up. So I know someone like myself who's an empath, and when I am in an emotional state, I don't want to create content, but I have to separate my emotions for how I'm feeling right now from the content that I want to create, because everybody doesn't know that I'm having a bad day, and they don't need to know that. I can still show up and create the content, but sometimes in our minds, we can think, oh, because we're having a bad day, then we have to either shift the content we create and tell people that we're having this bad day, or we can't, present a certain way when we can. We just have to, as you mentioned, to take a step away and then come back to it.
I love that. And speaking of taking a step away, because I've seen this recently, and I guess because social media has been a thing for a decade or more now, that a lot of content creators are experiencing burnout, what we call burnout. What speak on that, and if you have any
Mm.
tips on maybe from a mindset point of view of avoiding or dodging burnout in this arena of content creation.
Yeah, it's a very difficult one. Something that I can't say I've fully mastered. I've been through my seasons of burnout as well. And for me, it was definitely seasons of information overload when I'd be consuming a lot more than I'm creating, or when I would, feel like I need to constantly be taking in more information, be studying instead of executing or showing up. That's when I'd feel this kind of burnout. And when you've been through a season of burnout, even when you come out of that season, I think you're always hesitant to like be consistent again or go all in again, because you're fearful of that happening again to you, of burning out. So yeah, prevention is something that every creator should be thinking about, even if you haven't yet experienced burnout or anything of the sort. Just thinking, okay, what is my strategy to prevent it from moving forward? And for me, the thing that works is definitely taking breaks and just reminding myself that I do have the creative control to take breaks when necessary, and setting yourself up for the rainy days, as they like to say as well, because as a content creator, everything, is so up and down. Yes, you can create a consistent income, but ultimately it's still going to rely on you showing up and doing the work. So how can you plan ahead if you need to take a break so you don't feel like you have to overwork yourself and then run into the burnout? So it's just about finding strategies to prevent that work for you. Everyone's going to be different, and everyone takes on content differently as well. Some people, really enjoy the fast pace, constantly in creation mode, constantly having their cameras out, and that's what fulfills them. But for then some other creators, such as maybe the educational creators, even like myself, I don't constantly enjoy having a camera out. So what can I do to protect myself? And that could look like batch recording content, so I'm not always in that filming mode. It could look like outsourcing, which is something that I've done recently. I have a video editor now, and just finding methods to, yeah, that would help you and suit you, I guess.
And self-care too.
Yeah,
What are
big
you
one.
doing when you're not on camera? What are you doing when you're not working? How are you taking care of yourself, your mind and your body? I think that's
Yeah,
probably
that's a
important
good
too.
one for sure.
But uh, the thing that came to mind is lots of times experiencing this burnout, these seasons of burnout can be really inconvenient because it could be, and I've seen it, you're on a roll on your platform. You are just pumping out stuff and things are moving, and you're like, great, if I just keep going, look at this growth I've made in the past 3 months, 6 months, a month. If I just keep going like this, no telling where I could end up. But then you hit a wall and it's like, oh my God, this is so inconvenient because things are going so well. I don't want to step away from it. But that's the nature of the beast. That's just how it is. Have you stepped away from, like, in this season where things have changed for you and you're courting, you're dating, you're married? Was there a point when you, not for necessarily for burnout, but did you stepped away from the platform for a longer period than you normally did? And when you did, what were the results of that? How did
Yeah,
it affect the content?
yeah, for sure. This season has definitely been a season where I've taken a step back, and it was at the pinnacle of me seeing success. I had the whole 12-week year, and I achieved huge success, 100K in like 6 months. And then after that season, that's when I then got married, and now expecting a baby. So yeah, things have definitely shifted, and I have had my challenges mentally as well with navigating wanting to show up, wanting to grow my audience, and then also wanting to give into my personal life. And for me, it was just really important to stay grounded and know that what is for me in this season will not pass me. So yes, I could have continued to push and seen the success, but then where would that have led me to? I may have been in a deeper burnout. I may have, it may have completely changed the trajectory of the life that I have. So I just had to have faith that when it is the right time to get back into it, I'm more than capable to do so. So when the if you are a creator and you are going through a season of feeling like, oh, if I just did this, I could have seen this result, it's not helpful to think like that. Just think about what opportunities do you have now, what resources do you have now, what can you do now. And yeah, the great thing about having a personal brand is that our seasons are always going to change, always evolve, but you can always offer value at where you're at. So there's no point dwelling on what could have been. It's now just about focusing on what is.
Yes, just get up and keep going.
Yeah.
So you can answer this question
Yeah.
because you have had 10 years in the content creation game. What I want you to tell me what your favorite part of content creation is, and then what your the hardest part or your least favorite part of content creation.
My favorite part is honestly just sitting down in front of the camera and just speaking, just sharing what's on my mind, what I'm going through, just knowing that it's going to help people, it's going to impact the lives of those who are listening. That is something that I really enjoy, and the feedback I get as well, the feedback from the comments, from people sharing, even in person. I've moved to a bigger city now, so whenever I go out, not all the time, but if I'm at a big event, I always have people coming up to me saying how this video changed their life, how they watched this. And these are these are silent supporters as well. They're not the loudest who comment on all my videos. They're just people who say, "Oh, I've been watching you for years, and implemented this, and this happened," and sharing real life testimonies. That's what brings me so much joy about content creation, and yeah, the fact that it is always evolving. It is exciting. It's great to share your life. I've been a content creator since I was 5 years old. I used to have my own TV show
Really?
where not a professional one, but my little cousin would
Yeah.
film me, and I'd just be performing and speaking and doing all these things on our little camcorder. So I knew that this was always the path I was going to take. I just didn't expect it to be YouTube. But yeah, content creation is just something that has always been ingrained in me to do. And I guess the challenging part for me is the consistency, the editing, and if I'm honest, the comparison as well. Because, as creators, you do compare yourself to what other people are doing, to their level of creativity, of skill, and you question, oh, should I be at that level? Should I, be doing more? And you kind of don't get the answer. You don't get the validation or the affirmation as you would do in a traditional 9 to 5. You have
Mhm.
your appraisal meetings and they tell you, yeah, you're doing this and this. But on YouTube, everything is just so, free flowing. Is You have to create your own path, and yeah, so that's kind of a challenge.
I love that you compared it to when you're on a job, they give you feedback, you have your reviews, you get a raise or not. How do you, though, um, analyze or uh, quantify your success on YouTube? What, for you personally, how do you decide, yes, this was a successful piece of content, or this has been a successful month? How do you determine that?
Well, definitely the income. That's the first thing I'd say. The income, the numbers definitely speak there. So that's the first thing. But then also just the level of comments that I'm getting, the views as well play a big part. I mean, I know people say, well, not a lot of people, but some people think, you don't have to think about the analytics, but I do think they are important. And I think it's something that we should take into consideration and we should also learn as well. So that's something that I learned through your course, just really how to study analytics and how to understand what is going on the back end. But even aside from the analytics, the income, I consider it to be a success when I'm showing up and when I'm being consistent. So if I set a target of, okay, I want to post 3 times a week for a month, if I do that, regardless of the results, that's still a success to me because that's a personal goal. That's something that's in my control, whereas the analytics, the income is not in my control.
I love that because I wish every creator would put a little checkbox on their computer and to say, especially when you're feeling like a little discouraged, a little down, your last video, it happens to all of us. Our last video didn't perform like we thought it was for whatever reason. But if you have a checkbox that says, hey, but I showed up when I said I was going to,
Yeah.
every time I said I was going to show up last month. Hey, my videos may not have gotten a lot of views, but because, I have this business, I have X amount of income from my business because
Yeah.
the right people watched my video. There's different ways to measure success. I love that. Your analytics. And yes, analytics are important because they should inform what direction you're going in. How you should show up, how you should create your content, what kind of content you should create because it's the analytics don't lie. They tell you what people are watching, what they like, what parts of your video they don't like. So I love that. All of that. Keep all of that in mind.
Yeah.
So what advice, you are an OG, so officially, what advice would you give a brand new content creator who's just starting out on YouTube specifically, but on any platform?
Advice I would give is I would say first to brainstorm. Have a good brainstorming session of the type of content you want to create. And in order to do that, I would recommend, starting with having just some content pillars of the different buckets of content because when you get into the conversation of I need to find a niche, I need to, figure out what I'm going to be talking about and things, it can be easy as a new creator to see what other people are doing and see their success and want to mimic that or copy that. But as a new creator, you have to give yourself a chance to explore. And the best way to do that is by having these different content pillars. So let's say if you wanted to talk about mindset, or reinventing yourself, which is a common topic on YouTube. Okay, what exactly underneath that could you specifically speak on? Whether it's up leveling finances, whether it's faith-based, what specific arena do you want to go into? So that's the first thing I'd just say, having a brainstorm of different content pillars, getting as many ideas as you can. I think I may have even got this from you as well, the 100 ideas,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Yeah, that was something that we did in the course, just having a list of 100 ideas. So even when you have those moments of lack of motivation or you're going through a content block, you've got those ideas ready to go. And then this question is a difficult one to answer because you don't want to just give the cliche, or just start, but it's the only thing you can do, really. It really is the only thing you can do. Um, just start, because the more consistent you are, the more you build a habit around it, the easier it becomes. And even with me being on the platform for 10 years, if I take a long enough break, it can feel like I'm coming back and starting from scratch. Like I'll sit in front of my camera and I'll be like, I don't know how to speak anymore. I don't know what I'm doing. So no matter how long you've been in the game for, it can always feel like you're starting again when you do take a long break. So just get into the habit of consistently creating, even if you're not happy with the output. Don't seek perfection, just seek that consistency in the beginning, and then when you find something that works for you, just honestly go with it. For me, it was productivity. So that was the thing that really took off on my channel unexpectedly. But when it
Mm-hmm.
did, I decided to really just dive into that. But I still gave myself the option to explore prior to that video blowing up. I still give myself the option to explore other things.
I love that. And every part of the conversation touches on somehow consistency. And you reminded me when you said that. I read something this week or heard a video, who knows, about making promises to yourself. I think this was about exercising, maybe, but it could apply both to content creation too. And it said that when you have promised yourself that you're going to do something, I'm going to get up and walk every day for 30 minutes. I'm going to drink 16 ounces of water every hour. I'm going to create a video, post a video once a week. Do not, I think they were saying, come hell or high water, make sure you do that thing. Because if you don't keep your promises to yourself, what you're doing is creating a habit of failure. And
Yep.
I never thought of it that way. I was like, oh, so maybe be very careful about what you promise yourself. Don't be very blasé about, oh, I'm going to do this and do that, and don't do it, because you're creating this habit of failure. And vice and on the flip side, when you do it, you're creating a habit of keeping your promises and showing up to yourself.
Yeah, that's so true. And even for me in this season, I'm very reluctant to say yes to things or overextend, even to myself. I would love to get back into the routine of posting 3 times a week like I was before, but I know that for me to say, all right, from this week I'm going to start posting 3 times a week, as much as I'm ambitious and I'd love to do that, and I probably could do that, I'd rather not go through letting myself down and
Mhm.
losing that confidence if it doesn't happen. So as a new creator, you're going to have all of this excitement and you're going to want to see these fast results. So you'll set all of these goals for what you want to do. But if you haven't yet built up that muscle, then as you've mentioned, if you don't do it that 1 week or a couple of weeks, then you're just affirming to yourself failure rather than success. So in the beginning, that slow and steady is going to win the race. I actually came across a newer creator just today who I'm really enjoying, and she posts post videos every other week.
Mhm.
And she was just like, at the end of the video, right, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And when I heard that, I thought, wow, like I like that. She's being open and honest with what to expect, because a lot of
Yeah.
creators, they want to, give everything and overextend themselves. But she was like, actually, no, every other week is when you're going to get a video. I'll see you then. And, in time, that'll probably change and she'll post a lot more frequently. But it's just about what can you actually, promise yourself and stick to in this season.
Right. The seasons. There are seasons.
Yeah.
There are seasons of growth. You've done it. Reagan Elise did it. Where like I am hitting this hard. I'm doing 3, 4 videos a week, but you don't have to keep that up forever. It's okay to scale back. It's okay to scale back a lot. And then it's okay to scale up again. It's a season. This is a season you're in. But that whole, building your muscle is also psychological too, because when I heard if you don't keep a promise to yourself, you're setting up a habit of failure. What I had on my calendar from say the first of the year, because we all start the first of the year off with these big goals and everything,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do 5 TikToks, film 5 TikToks on Monday, and film a YouTube video on Tuesday. And you can set it up on your calendar where it's repeating. So I had this repeating on my calendar, even though I really wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I just said, no, I'm taking this off my calendar. I was feeling like, well, it's going to remind me that I should be doing this. And I realized it was having a detrimental effect, because every time I'd open my calendar and I'd see that, I'd feel bad, because it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. So I just took it off my calendar and I replaced it with what I know I'm going to do, what I
Yeah.
already have planned and I already know that I'm going to commit to. And it's made me feel a lot freer and a lot more confident about how I can show up. And it's okay. Slow and steady wins the race. I
Yeah.
don't have to get to a certain um, uh, number of views in a certain period of time. Now, you don't want to drag it out too long, but even on my business, I don't have to have hundreds and hundreds of enrollees every month. I am perfectly happy, like you said, talking to 2 people. And so, why not let that be my level of success?
Yeah.
If I reach one person, that's success to me. And kind of rearranging the mindset of how you think about uh, I don't have to be like this creator or that creator who's doing this, that, and the other. I can set my own levels of success. And I think that's kind of something that the mindset, leaning into the mindset from watching your videos. So I really appreciate that. But I'd like to know, like moving forward, new baby notwithstanding, but because there's going to be a time that baby's going to grow up and it's going to go to school and it's going to happen faster than you know. But
Yeah.
what are your long term goals and aspirations as a content creator, as a business person? And what are your plans to achieve them?
Good question. I something I'm still, thinking about, something I'm still really trying to plan. But I guess there's only so much planning you can do in life,
Mhm.
and our the direction we're going, the assignment. I believe we'll always set an assignment for a season, and the assignment I think that I've been set now is to just encourage people through my own journey, my story, all of these transitions that I've gone through in my own life, and sharing lessons on that. So definitely I see myself expanding my mentorship. I see myself expanding even my community on YouTube and offering more resources, valuable content, and building from there. But yeah, in terms of financial goals, income goals, I do want to be, financially independent and free, and but that doesn't always have to look like, making millions and millions and millions each year. It just looks
Mhm.
like living a life that's intentional and meaningful to me, whatever that means in this season. So yeah, it's difficult to answer that question right now, but I'm enjoying where I'm at, and it's just about maximizing what I've already built. So I have a great platform. So how can I make sure I'm maximizing that even more than I am
Mhm.
currently?
Awesome. So How can people? I'm going to put all your information in the description box, all your links for your socials. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell people how they can work with you and how they can find you online.
So you can find me at Montelle Bee on all platforms, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube is of course my main platform. And yeah, you can work with me if you are, looking at how you can just achieve your next breakthrough, whether it be a mindset within lifestyle, anything that you're finding challenging right now. I offer coaching services, encouragement. So, yeah, all of those details will be down in the description, I guess, and also my YouTube channel.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Montel, for sharing all your what's your changes that have been going on in your life, your successes, and your experiences with creating content. And I'd love to have you on again one day
Yeah,
soon.
thank you so much for having me. Thank you so
All right.
much.